It's that time again. We're looking at some more Wii U games on the Retro Hunting Adventures, starting after these introductory words from MegaManFan.
Yo, this is MegaManFan, and you need to rock and or roll on over to Mr. MegaManFan's YouTube channel, because it's all that rush to make it happen. Peace!
I'm your host, Mr. MegaManFan, and out of the almost dozen games I picked up for Wii U on Retro Hunting Adventures for this episode, this one probably had the longest update out of all of them. Most didn't have any, but this one actually took a couple of minutes to download and install, which isn't really bad compared to Shantae Half Genie Hero, but it does give me time to talk a little bit about this game, which was developed by WayForward Technologies with the help of Pendleton Ward from Adventure Time. Curiously, this game was removed from digital stores in December 2016. Maybe a licensing agreement expired, something to that effect. But if you want the game, the only way to get it now is to buy a physical copy, which was released almost simultaneously in 3 different territories on PS3 and Xbox 360. European Union, November 15th of 2013. North America, 4 days later. Australia, 2 days after that. On Wii U, it came out November 19th in North America, December 12th in Australia, and 1 day later in the European Union. According to the critical reception, there may be another reason that this game didn't get left on digital platforms. 2 out of 10 from Destructoid, 2 out of 10 from GameSpot, 3.5 out of 10 from IGN. It didn't get good reviews. It's called Lackluster and Shameful by Destructoid. Carolyn Pettit of GameSpot called it dungeon crawling at its dullest. And Hardcore Gamer said it has a bare bones plot and a veritable lack of charm with frustrating hit detection. Boy, you might wonder why I spent $14 on this game with those kind of reviews. But you know what? There are only so many Wii U games out there, and this is one of them I didn't have. In fact, I already own the other Adventure Time game that came out on Wii U, which is Finn and Jake Investigations from 2015, a much better reviewed and received game with an average Metacritic score of 66%. Not a great score in the grand scheme of things, but it fares well by comparison. In fact, Nintendo World Report said, by default, I feel as if this is the best Adventure Time video game. It's not perfect and a little on the easy side, but as an Adventure Time fan, it made me smile. And that might be the one and only reason to own Explore the Dungeon, because I don't know. Because look, it's BMO. You get BMO on your Wii U touchpad. I find that incredibly charming. Unfortunately, that's about all you get on the touchpad. You don't really get any supplementary additional video, audio, display, interactive options. You just get BMO's smiling face. But I guess, you know what? That's certainly better than a lot of Wii U games that don't use the touchpad for anything at all when they've got a second display and they don't even take advantage of it. I'll take BMO's smiling face over nothing at all. I think that reflects the hard choice you also have to make as a Wii U collector of physical games. You get to a certain point where even something with an incredibly low Metacritic score that might not be very fun, you just kind of think, well, better this than nothing at all. So, that's our first game. Let's get back to the stack and see what we got next. Now here we have The Amazing Spider-Man for Wii U, which came out on almost every conceivable platform, not to mention it came out before the movie did. The movie debuted June 30th of 2012 in Tokyo and came out in the United States on July 3rd, just in time for the 4th of July. So I guess everybody who had the day off could go to the theater and see The Amazing Spider-Man. And apparently they did, because it did $757 million at the box office. But to precede that, they released this game on 3DS, DS, PS3, Wii, and Xbox 360 on June 26th. The Wii U port, well, I should say, even though the game came out on every platform before the movie, it didn't come out on Wii U before the movie. That wasn't until March 5th, 2013. And given they had extra time, they really should have done more with the second display other than just leaving the Amazing Spider Man logo there. Once again, you feel like a lot of these developers for Wii U games really didn't know how to take advantage of a second display, which doesn't make sense given that many of them developed games for the DS and the 3DS, so it's not like they don't know how to use two screens at the same time, but somehow with the Wii U, they got completely flummoxed by the fact that one of the screens was a TV and the other was a handheld touchpad that you used as your controller. Apparently, they just thought, oh, I don't know what to do with that. Oh, man, I'm confused now. Well, too bad. At least if you pick up the Wii U version, you're picking up the quote unquote Ultimate Edition because it includes all the DLC that was available for PS3, Windows PC, and Xbox 360. So if you want a good game complete without having to buy or download all the extras, which you might not even be able to do anymore, the Wii U version is definitely the way to go. And hey, one good Spider Man game deserves another, right? So we've got a sequel, The Amazing Spider Man 2 for Wii U. Unfortunately, they didn't really do anything innovative with the sequel. It appears they just recycled the exact same engine, right down to the fact that it has the same loading screens, the same static display on the touchpad, and it's considered to be loosely based on the movie sequel. So it was already in development before that movie even came out, and I think the game suffers as a result. It got much lower Metacritic scores, some as low as 2 out of 10, an average of about 55 overall. Not a must own game. In fact, Eurogamer's Dan Whitehead said, "It's like a part of me died after playing it." So own it if you collect Spider Man games or Wii U games, but don't go out of your way for this one, especially not compared to the Amazing Spider Man Ultimate Edition, the real one that you should own. Speaking of sequels, here's the Book of Unwritten Tales 2, which would make you think there's a Book of Unwritten Tales 1 for Wii U, but there is not. That's confusing, right? And it's also a confusing release because it came out June 7, 2016, over a year after it had already been on Windows, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, so this is a very late Wii U release. A sequel to a game that never came out on Wii U and which actually never even came out on consoles at all. It came out on Windows in 2009 in the European Union, 2011 in North America, and it even got ports to Mac and Linux in 2012. So if you want to play the first Book of Unwritten Tales, don't go looking for it on a console. It's not there. As for the game itself, the first one got really good reviews. It has an average of 82 out of 100 on Metacritic. The sequel, well, it's pretty close. It's got 80 out of 100 on PC, 79 out of 100 on Xbox One, 63 out of 100 on PS4, and it doesn't appear anybody even rated it on Wii U, which isn't terribly surprising given, again, it's a late release, and it's also one of the more expensive ones as a result. If you want a copy of the Book of Unwritten Tales 2, it's going to set you back about $25 loose and $50 complete. So that tells you that it was a low print run late in the life cycle and that there just aren't that many copies out there. At the other end of the spectrum is Cabela's Dangerous Hunts 2013, which had such a large print run, you can find copies of it for $10 if you try. Hunting games aren't necessarily my bag, but I'm going to give this one props for a couple of things. First of all, unlike a lot of Wii U games, this one actually lets you use the Pro Controller to play it. So that is hugely appreciated from somebody who thinks that controller becomes almost useless unless you're playing retro games. So, way to go, Activision. For once, you actually get credit for doing something right. Second of all, it's not just a game where you go out in the woods and point your sight at a deer and shoot it. There's actually some plot to this game. It's about a family that gets attacked by a grizzly bear. 10 years later, they become estranged from each other. They reunite, they try to patch up their relationship with each other. You know, that could get people into a game like this, even if they're not a fan of hunting or hunting games. So, the fact they included a plot that's actually compelling and interesting is probably why this game has gotten some decent reviews, anywhere from 5 to 7 out of 10, depending on who you read. Check it out. And here is Just Dance 2014, my second attempt at this game. If you remember a previous Wii U collection video, I picked up a copy from Trade Post Entertainment, and it did not work no matter how many times I cleaned it. This is the only other game in this week's video that required me to download a day one update when I put the disc in my Wii U, but why not? It's going to be a good fitting note to end it on to actually have a working copy of Just Dance 2014. I'm still boggled at how they iterate this game out endlessly for every conceivable console. I think that in 5 years' time, we'll probably be looking at a Just Dance 2025 for PS2 and Nintendo Wii. Yeah, there will be a game for a 2 decade old console at that point, but they don't seem to have any indication of stopping. In fact, why would they if they continue to sell Just Dance games year after year after year? It is a hugely successful franchise for Ubisoft, who needs any hit they can get to keep the money flowing in if they're not going to get it from greedy practices like putting loot boxes in every game. So at least this one is honest income for Ubisoft. Just keep recycling that engine and iterating out Just Dance games, and somebody will buy them. Who knows? It may go down as the best selling video game franchise of all time because Lord knows there's plenty enough of them out there. There's even gold versions of these games for Wii U. I need to find the gold versions, which apparently include extra DLC that was not on the original release. So not only do I have to collect one version of Just Dance for Wii U, I have to collect two in some cases. That blows my mind. Unfortunately, I can't really show you much of the gameplay here because of the fact that it's going to have lots of copyrighted music. I don't want the strikes. I don't want my video demonetized or taken down. I'm going to have to leave it off at a certain point and say that's it for this week's episode of the Retro Hunting Adventures. But we've got a full stack of Wii U games, so we will be coming back for more next week. There was a nice little bonus, though, once I started up this game. It said, "Congratulations, we see that you own Just Dance 4 and that you've already played it on this console, so we're going to reward you for your loyalty. Here's some icons just for you." Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Very thoughtful of you to acknowledge that I bought one used game, played it, and then bought another used game and played it. I'm sure they would have preferred I bought both new. See you next week.